Okay, next question. Hey Merja, I'm not feeling a strong sense of belonging at work. In fact, I often feel like an outsider. Maybe it's because I'm an intuitive in a predominantly sensor environment. I often feel a little different, out of place, or even unintentionally included from things. The kind of conversations that my colleagues have bores me, but it's what seems to bond them together. Lately, I've been having my lunch breaks in a separate room just to avoid awkwardness of being the quiet one. What do you recommend? Great question. So, the first thing that I recommend is to recognize that as a highly intuitive people with a bunch of sensors, you will feel like the odd one out, and you will feel like what they're talking about is boring to you because it's having the sensory experience doesn't have like the mysticism of the intuitive experience, which means that it's not naturally as engaging for us as intuitives as it is for sensors. Sensors find it very comfortable to be in that space of talking about sensory stuff, like what seems like surface level stuff. But in fact, it's just a different way of looking at the world. It's not really that one is more important than the other. But the point here being that you're feeling left out. You're feeling like the strange quiet one. You're feeling like, you don't want to be a part of, or can't be a part of, or can't relate to what they're going through, and they can't relate to what you're going through. So if we look at what intuition is a real pattern recognition piece. We're looking at what might be there that's not seen. But because sensory people are not focused on what's behind, in front of, like what's they're focused on what's in front of them, they are focused on what is in front of them, not what's behind them, is what I'm trying to say. Then it a lot of the time may seem like the conversations are really like obvious. Like why are we even talking about that? Because what's behind it is so much more interesting or so much more in depth. But the thing is that a lot of sensory people in particular, they're really good at looking at what's right there and then actioning on that, and not so great at looking at what's behind it and then contemplating that. So sensory people don't generally have good imagination. And that's just how they're wired. The same way that your strength is not to look at what's right there and make something happen with it. So I think that the starting point has to be just recognizing that you have different skills when it comes to collecting information. You're differently oriented. And with just that, you can kind of go, well, this doesn't have to be awkward. We don't have to have a problem around this. They're just different. We're just all different. So if you feel like there's awkwardness around you being around these people, then my question to you is, what is it about, like, what do you believe is so weird about you that you can't explain to them in a way that makes sense to them? Even if it's just saying, I'm just wired differently, or even if it's just saying, what about this option or that possibility? So what is stopping you from asserting yourself as you are into those conversations so that they can maybe learn to embrace who you are and the differences that you bring to the table? What's stopping you from doing that? And if you can start engaging with that question, then you might find out that, in fact, they did want to include you, and that, it wasn't an intentional, and you did say unintentionally they're unincluding you, but that they're not including you, even unintentionally, because there's something wrong. It's just that they haven't seen the amazingness that you can bring to the table, the weirdness, which is actually, some of them will feel is an amazingness that you do bring to the table. You could be surprised. Us intuitives, we often have this thing where we, can imagine the good in the situation, but we can always also imagine the bad in people. And sometimes that doesn't really work. to our advantage when it comes to especially connecting with sensory people. I have had friendships, relationships, family connections with a lot of sensory people, and something that they often, how they describe me is like a fascinating person, because I'm thinking differently than they are. And because I've been able to meet them where they are and then bring that extra dimension into the conversation that only intuitives can, they look at you and they go like, you're fascinating. That's so fascinating. And so I want you to have that experience too, because you are fascinating to sensory people as an intuitive. But you have to bring yourself into that situation so that they can see it. All right. I hope that's helpful. And let me know how you go with that. I'd love to hear what your experience of that was. Hey, Karen, good to see you. Yeah, I will look forward to hearing your feedback on that, your perceptions, if you want to continue this conversation, by all means. This is an important conversation. And thank you for asking the question. It's been great to be here with you today. Thank you for your time. And we'll talk real soon. Have a really great day. Stay safe wherever you are. And embrace that inner weird. You're awesome. I'll talk to you soon.